Anxiety doesn't exist. Yeah, you heard me. It doesn't exist. It's a lie, a fabrication. It's the excuse you use when you're too lazy, too weak, too undisciplined to handle your shit. But guess what? I'm not gonna sit here and coddle you. I'm not gonna tell you it's okay to wallow in self-pity, to let anxiety control your life. Because that's exactly what you've been doing. You've been giving your power away to something that's not even real. Anxiety is nothing but a product of your own mind. You created it and now you let it control you. You let it paralyze you, hold you back from being the man or woman you're supposed to be. And why? Because it's easier to sit there and feel sorry for yourself. It's easier to call yourself a victim, to say, oh, I have anxiety, than to actually get up and do something about it. You think you're the only one who feels pressure? Who feels stress? Who feels like life is overwhelming? We all feel that, every single one of us. But do you know what separates winners from losers? Winners act in spite of it. Anxiety is a habit of letting your mind run wild with bullshit, a habit of letting fear control your actions, a habit of avoiding discomfort. But here's the truth. Anxiety doesn't control you. You control it. I've had people come up to me crying about their anxiety. Oh, Andrew, I can't handle it. It's too much. I feel like the walls are closing in. And do you know what I tell them? Good. Let it crush you. Let it suffocate you. And then get up and fucking fight. Because anxiety is nothing but fear. Fear that you're not good enough. Fear that you might fail. Fear that you can't handle life. And here's the harsh truth you don't want to hear. Your fear is a choice. You're choosing to live in fear. You're choosing to let your thoughts control you. You're choosing to let the running through your head dictate your life. But guess what? You can choose not to. Do you think I've never felt fear? Do you think I've never had moments where life hit me so hard I didn't know what to do? Of course I have. But I never ever let it stop me. I've been stabbed. I've been in the middle of war zones. I faced that would make most people crumble. But I didn't sit there thinking, oh, I'm anxious, I don't know what to do. No, I acted. I fought. And because I fought, I'm standing here today. Because I refuse to let my mind control me, I've conquered the world. You're letting your emotions dictate your life. But here's the thing. Your emotions are irrelevant. They don't matter. They're fleeting, temporary feelings that you give too much power to. The moment you stop caring about how you feel and start focusing on what you need to do, anxiety loses its grip. Anxiety isn't a disease. It's not something that just happens to you. It's a direct result of your own choices, your own behavior. You've trained your mind to be anxious every time you back down from a challenge. Every time you avoid discomfort. Every time you sit in your own self-pity instead of taking action, you reinforce anxiety. You know what I did when I felt fear? I leaned into it. I faced it head on. When I felt the anxiety creeping in, when my heart was pounding, when my mind was racing, I didn't run. I didn't sit there and let it take over. I did exactly what my anxiety told me not to do. If I was scared of getting hit, I walked straight into the fight. If I was worried about failure, I doubled down and went harder. And every time I did that, I killed the anxiety. I killed it by proving to myself that I was stronger than it, that I was in control, not my emotions. And you can do the same thing. You can choose to stop feeding your anxiety. You can choose to stop letting it control your life. But that's the problem, isn't it? You don't want to make that choice because it's easier to be a victim. It's easier to blame something outside of yourself. You want to know how to stop anxiety forever. Start taking responsibility for your life. Own it. Own every thought, every feeling, every fear, every failure. Because the moment you start taking ownership, you realize anxiety is a joke. It's a product of your own mind, a creation of your own lack of discipline. But let me tell you something. You can't be anxious if you're busy being disciplined. You ever notice that? When you're out there grinding, when you're focused on your goals, when you're pushing your body and mind to the limit, you don't have time for anxiety. You don't have time to sit around worrying about what might happen. Do you know why? Because action kills anxiety. Anxiety lives in inaction. It thrives when you sit there overthinking every little thing, letting your mind run wild with imaginary problems. But the moment you start taking action, the moment you start moving, anxiety disappears. I've been in fights where my opponent was twice my size, where the odds were stacked against me, but I wasn't anxious. I wasn't scared. Why? Because I was prepared. I had trained. I had put in the work. I had built the discipline that made me untouchable. That's the secret. Discipline destroys anxiety. You can't be anxious when you know you've done everything in your power to prepare. When you've put in the hours, when you've pushed yourself beyond your limits, you become bulletproof. But you're anxious because you haven't done shit. You're anxious because deep down, you know you're not living up to your potential. You're not putting in the work. You're cutting corners. You're avoiding discomfort, and that's why anxiety has its claws in you. You want to stop anxiety forever? Here's what you do. Get disciplined. Stop sitting around feeling sorry for yourself. Stop letting your emotions control you. You want to wake up without anxiety? Get your ass in the gym. Train your body until it screams. Push yourself to the point where your mind has no choice but to focus on the pain, on the grind, on the effort. Because when you're pushing your limits physically, mentally, you don't have time for fear. Wake up early, control your day from the moment you open your eyes. Start your morning with purpose, with intention, and you'll kill anxiety before it even has a chance to creep in. Stop making excuses. The more excuses you make, the more power you give to your anxiety. Every time you say, I can't, you feed that fear. Every time you say, I'm too tired, or I don't feel like it, you're reinforcing the very habits that keep you stuck. You're anxious because you're lazy, because you lack the discipline to do what needs to be done. You sit there worrying about the future instead of focusing on what you can control right now. Here's the truth. Anxiety is for the weak. If you want to live like a victim, if you want to be controlled by your mind, by all means, keep doing what you're doing. But don't expect anyone to respect you. Don't expect life to hand you anything. But if you want to be a man, if you want to be a warrior, you need to take control. You need to own your life, own your mind, and own your emotions. Anxiety is a choice. And right now you have a choice. You can continue down the path you're on, letting anxiety dictate your life, or you can decide here and now that you're done with that bullshit. Get disciplined. Start today. Start now. Build habits that reinforce strength, not weakness. Push yourself every single day. Face your fears head on. And I promise you, anxiety will die. It will die because it can't survive in the presence of action, of discipline, of relentless focus. Stop waiting for your anxiety to go away. It's not going anywhere unless you make it go. Stop letting your mind control you. Control your mind. And when you do, you'll realize that anxiety never existed in the first place. It was just an illusion, a lie you told yourself to stay comfortable. But you're not here to be comfortable. Now that I've told you anxiety doesn't exist, some of you still don't want to believe it. You want to sit there and hold on to your victim mentality because it's become comfortable. You've made anxiety a part of your identity. It's who you think you are now. But let me tell you something. That's weak. You've wrapped yourself up in anxiety like a warm blanket because it's easier than facing the truth. It's easier than looking at yourself in the mirror and admitting that you've let yourself go soft. You've let yourself become weak. You've let fear, laziness, and excuses take over your life. And now you sit there thinking you've got some kind of disorder. No, you've got a discipline problem. And I'm here to wake you up. Anxiety isn't the problem. You are. And do you know what that means? That's good news. Because if you're the problem, then you can be the solution. You don't need pills. You don't need therapy. You don't need people telling you it's okay to be weak. What you need is to take a good, hard look at yourself and decide that enough is enough. The time for excuses is over. Let me tell you a story from my own life. When I was young, broke, and living in a foreign country, I could have easily fallen into the trap of anxiety. I had no money. I had no connections. I didn't know what the next day would bring, let alone the next month. Most people would crumble under that pressure. Most people would let fear take over and sit around feeling sorry for themselves, but not me. Do you know why? Because I understood one thing. I'm in control of my life. Every single day I woke up and took action. I didn't let the fear of the unknown paralyze me. I didn't let the anxiety of, what if this doesn't work? Or what if I fail? Hold me back. I just acted. Because that's what winners do. They act. They don't sit around waiting for life to give them a green light. They don't wait for the perfect circumstances. They move. They take risks. And when they fail, they get up and keep moving. And you think you're the only one who feels pressure? You think you're the only one who has doubts? We all have doubts. But the difference between successful people and people who fail is that the successful ones don't let those doubts stop them. They move forward in spite of them. They act even when they're scared. They get up and do the hard shit day after day without any guarantees. You're sitting there waiting for your feelings to change before you take action. You're waiting for the anxiety to go away, for the fear to disappear, before you start doing the things you know you need to do. But here's the truth. Those feelings aren't going anywhere. Anxiety is never going to magically disappear. Fear isn't going to suddenly vanish. You're always going to have doubts. You're always going to feel that pressure. But that's the price of greatness. That's the price you pay to be a winner. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll stop letting it control you. You want to stop anxiety forever? Here's how you do it. You stop caring about your feeling. Your feelings are irrelevant. They're fleeting. They're temporary, and they change with the wind. One minute you feel anxious. The next minute you feel fine. One day you're motivated. The next day you're not. But none of that matters. What matters is that you show up every single day and do what needs to be done, no matter how you feel. You think I wake up every day feeling like a beast? You think I jump out of bed every morning fired up and ready to conquer the world? Hell no. Some days I wake up and I don't feel like doing shit, but I get up and do it anyway. Why? Because I've trained myself to be disciplined. I've trained myself to act regardless of how I feel. And because of that, anxiety doesn't touch me. It doesn't even come close because I don't give it a chance. Some of you are so soft that the moment you feel a little discomfort, you back down. You feel the tiniest bit of anxiety and you crumble. But do you want to know what anxiety really is? It's a test. It's a test to see whether you have the balls to keep going or whether you'll fold like a cheap suit. You feel that pit in your stomach, that tightness in your chest? Good. That means you're alive. That means you're about to step into something important. That means you're about to grow. But instead of facing it, what do? You retreat. You back off. You find something to distract yourself, your phone, social media, Netflix, anything to keep you from confronting that discomfort. But the winners, they lean into it. You want to stop anxiety forever? Start leaning into the discomfort. Start facing it head on. Because every time you face it, you get stronger. Every time you push through it, you build resilience. And eventually, anxiety loses its power over you. Because that's the secret no one wants to tell you. Anxiety only controls you because you let it. Yeah, you've trained your mind to see discomfort as a threat. You've trained your mind to avoid fear, to avoid risk, to avoid anything that might push you out of your comfort zone. And because of that, you've made yourself weak. But you can retrain your mind. You can train yourself to see discomfort as an opportunity, not a threat. You can train yourself to see fear as fuel, not something to avoid. You can turn anxiety into your greatest weapon if you know how to control it. But that requires discipline. It requires action. It requires waking up every single day and deciding, I'm not going to let my emotions control me. You ever notice that the most disciplined people never seem to struggle with anxiety? Do you think that's a coincidence? It's not. Anxiety thrives in chaos. It thrives in a life without structure, without order, without purpose. And that's why so many of you are stuck. You have no structure. You have no discipline. You let life happen to you instead of taking control of it. You want to stop anxiety? Start taking control of your day. Start planning your day with purpose. Wake up at the same time every morning. Get your ass in the gym before the sun is up. Have a clear plan for your day. Know exactly what you're going to do and when you're going to do it, and stick to it. No excuses. Because when you have discipline, when you have structure, anxiety has nowhere to hide. It can't creep in when you're focused, when you're moving forward, when you're on a mission. But when you live in chaos, when you have no direction, no plan, no purpose, anxiety thrives. It takes over your life. So you need to ask yourself, are you living in chaos or are you living with purpose? Because anxiety can't exist in a mind that's focused, in a mind that's disciplined, in a mind that's constantly moving forward. It only exists in the minds of the weak. So if you're struggling with anxiety, you're weak. That's the truth. And until you fix that weakness, until you decide that you're done being controlled by your emotions, anxiety will continue to run. But the moment you decide that you're done with that bullshit, the moment you start acting like the man or woman you're supposed to be, anxiety dies. It can't survive in the presence of discipline, of action, of relentless focus. So stop being soft. Stop waiting for your feelings to change. Stop sitting around hoping that one day you'll wake up and everything will be perfect. That day isn't coming. What's coming is more discomfort, more fear, more tests. And the only way to pass those tests is to stop letting anxiety control you. Take control of your life. Take control of your mind and stop letting anxiety run the show. You are in control. Remember that. Every time you feel anxiety creeping in, every time you start to doubt yourself, remember, you are in control. And when you take control of your life, when you build the discipline to act regardless of how you feel, anxiety ceases to exist forever.